The world just called Vladimir Putin's bluff. And the panic in Moscow is impossible to hide. What was supposed to be a show of Russian nuclear power has become one of the most embarrassing political failures of Putin's career. His threat to intimidate Washington with a so-called unstoppable missile has backfired spectacularly, exposing the weakness behind Russia's nuclear theater. The crisis began with a lie. Desperate to regain leverage against US sanctions, Putin ordered a nuclear cruise missile test, hoping fear would force Washington to fold. As soon as the Kremlin made that announcement, Russian state television went into full propaganda mode, claiming that their new missile could obliterate major US cities: Washington, Chicago, Seattle, and Los Angeles. Putin even claimed the missile had flown 14,000 kilometers, nearly the distance from Moscow to Hawaii and back. But there was one major problem. Norway reported no nuclear radiation. That meant there was no nuclear engine, no radioactive trace, just a false show of strength. In short, Russia was lying. The failure prompted a swift and humiliating response from President Trump. He reminded Putin publicly that the United States not only possesses the world's largest nuclear stockpile, but could also restart testing if necessary. Within hours, the Kremlin began to retreat. The same state outlets that bragged about destroying US cities suddenly apologized, saying the nuclear test wasn't really nuclear after all. Putin's last tactic, fear, had collapsed. Even Kremlin anchors, who earlier shouted about striking with full might and wiping everything off the face of the earth, were forced to tone it down. One propagandist said on air, "If archaic is for Paris, London, and the like, then bureaucratic is for Washington, Chicago, Seattle, Los Angeles, 14,000 kilometers. It can fly around several times, and then hit Kyiv." But Norway's data told another story. The missile had launched, yes, but it wasn't nuclear. No radiation, no proof, no power. To understand why Putin keeps recycling these nuclear stunts, we need to look at Russia's long-standing problem, the illusion of strength as a substitute for real capability. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia's military budget fell to a fraction of America's. By the early 2000s, its weapons programs depended heavily on propaganda, animation over evidence. So when Putin claimed that this new missile had unlimited range and could evade any defense system, the world wanted proof. What did he show? A cartoon. The only footage broadcast was an animated simulation of missiles hitting Florida. It looked more like a video game trailer than a military test. And there's a reason. Previous real tests had failed. The first trial reportedly lasted only 5 seconds. The second lasted 13. In both cases, the nuclear engine never started. The missile went nowhere. If a nuclear-powered engine had ignited, there would have been radioactive traces in the upper atmosphere, detectable by countries like Norway and Finland. But none appeared. That's why the Norwegian military confirmed, yes, Russia launched something, but no, it wasn't nuclear. The evidence was irrefutable. Russia was bluffing. Again. Putin's bluff didn't just fail, it triggered an American counter-show of strength. When reporters asked Trump about Russia's test, he replied calmly but firmly, "They know we have a nuclear submarine, the greatest in the world, right off their shore. We test missiles all the time, but we don't need to go 8,000 miles. I don't think it's appropriate for Putin to be saying that either. He ought to get the war ended. A war that should have taken 1 week and is now in its 4th year." It was a measured response, but devastating in effect. The message was clear. Nuclear blackmail doesn't work on Washington. Yet Putin, cornered and desperate to save face, tried one more trick, announcing another test the very next day. This time it was the Poseidon underwater nuclear drone, a torpedo-sized weapon supposedly capable of wiping out coastal cities. His televised words were grandiose. "Yesterday we conducted another test of yet another promising system, the Poseidon unmanned underwater vehicle with a nuclear power unit. Its power significantly exceeds that of even our most promising Samut intercontinental missile. There are no means of interception in the world." But here's the catch. Putin had already made this same announcement in 2023, claiming that Poseidon had entered combat duty. Now, in 2025, he was saying it would soon enter combat duty. The contradiction exposed the cycle of empty claims, each one recycled to distract from Russia's battlefield failures and collapsing economy. The world didn't take the bait this time. The US still holds the largest and most modern nuclear arsenal on Earth. The US maintains the largest nuclear arsenal and high defense spending compared with any single nation. Trump reminded Moscow of that fact in a statement that read, "The United States has more nuclear weapons than any other country. This was accomplished, including a complete update and renovation of existing weapons during my first term in office. Because of the tremendous destructive power, I hated to do it, but I had no choice. Russia is second. China is a distant third. I have instructed the Department of Defense to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. That process will begin immediately." The announcement sparked debate. Critics worried it could reignite global nuclear testing. But the statement was strategic. It wasn't about detonating new bombs, it was about restoring deterrence. In nuclear policy, that's called mutually assured destruction, the balance that keeps wars cold instead of hot. If one side rattles its nuclear saber, the other reminds it of its own arsenal. The result is often stability. This doctrine had already proven its worth during the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. When Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev tried to place nuclear missiles in Cuba, President Kennedy blockaded the island and warned that any strike would mean war. The Soviets backed down. Strength, not appeasement, kept the peace. And history, it seems, was repeating itself. After Trump's message, Putin disappeared from the conversation. Instead, his spokesman Dmitry Peskov was sent out to clean up the mess. If President Trump is referring to the testing of the Burevestnik missile, that is by no means a nuclear test. All countries develop their defense systems, but this is not a nuclear test. The backpedal was complete. The Kremlin, once boasting of unstoppable missiles, was now insisting that nothing nuclear had happened at all. While the nuclear theater played out, Russia's propaganda network launched a secondary offensive, this time targeting US sanctions. Moscow's envoy to Washington, Kirill Dmitriev, told American media that sanctions would have absolutely no effect on Russia's economy and would only raise gas prices in the US. But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent publicly dismantled that claim. Russia is going to feel the pain immediately. India has already halted Russian oil purchases. Many Chinese refineries have stopped. Their oil earnings are down 20% year over year, and this could take them down another 20 or 30%. This is a maximum pressure campaign that's going to work. Then he added sharply, "Are you really going to publish what a Russian propagandist says? What else is he going to say? That it's terrible and will bring Putin to the table. What do you think will happen to him if he goes home and says that?" His remarks hit a nerve in Moscow. Russian state television reacted with personal attacks. Scott Bessent is being rude to Kirill Dmitriev for some inexplicable reason. Why is he talking so much about Russia? Hosts resorted to personal insinuations on air. It was a familiar pattern. When the argument fails, switch to insults. But the damage was done. Russia's narrative collapsed under economic data and public scrutiny. The deeper reason Putin's threats are falling flat is structural. Russia's economy, heavily dependent on oil exports, is buckling under sanctions. The state can no longer afford high-tech weapons production, and its credibility has eroded with every failed launch and recycled claim. Propaganda designed to intimidate now invites ridicule. When a supposed world-ending missile is followed by cartoon graphics instead of evidence, even Russia's allies grow skeptical. Meanwhile, the US and its partners are using coordinated messagings, military transparency, financial sanctions, and media rebuttals to dismantle Russia's psychological warfare. The strategy is working because it blends deterrence with exposure, countering fear with facts. So what happens next? Putin can no longer rely on nuclear posturing to distract from battlefield realities or economic decline. Each failed demonstration chips away at his image of control. The world, once cautious of his threats, now demands receipts. Trump's statement about renewed testing was not just about weapons, it was about signaling credibility. When deterrence is clear, bluffing loses power. And that's exactly what we're witnessing, the collapse of Russia's most dangerous form of propaganda. But the information war continues. As Russian media escalates its rhetoric, Western governments and independent analysts must keep exposing falsehoods with data, satellite imagery, and open source verification. The battle is now one of narratives as much as missiles. And that's why this story matters, because nuclear threats don't just test weapons, they test truth. Putin's theatre may still fool some, but for most of the world, the illusion is gone. In an age where information is as contested as the battlefield itself, truth demands vigilance. Every claim, test, and televised boast carries a motive, and separating fact from propaganda has never been more critical. Understanding modern warfare means looking beyond headlines, verifying evidence, and questioning every performance of power. Stay informed, think critically, and seek out sources that challenge the narrative rather than echo it. Because in today's world, awareness is the strongest defense, and seeing through the noise is how real understanding begins.